And we have, the meeting is being live streamed. Thank you. Whoops. Somebody who came and left.
Yeah, I heard the door slam.
The West, I know, right?
Something we said.
Nuts. I gotta mute myself. Sorry. Okay. That's the live stream on the 7-second delay. I guess it's like live television.
We have a Jennifer McKenzie here.
Hi guys,
Are you-
I'm a Flame Architecture.
Which
I'm
one?
presenting
Which one? Which building?
Lang Architecture. I'm the first project on the agenda tonight. So
51 West End.
51? Yeah.
They sent you they sent you an actual link. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what is this? I know I printed this thing out. Where the devil did it go? Oh, well. Nope, that's not it.
So is this theoretically our last virtual meeting?
In theory, yes. I don't know if you saw Ken Coughlin's, Jennifer, you get to the inside scoop on the
So excited.
the board. Yes, it's as exciting as any meeting of actuarial accountants. Ken Coughlin started a GoFundMe page or a whatever those sign-on things are.
Yeah.
It'll have no impact because the return from COVID restrictions is entirely political, in my view. Not governed by science, certainly. But the entreaty, the plea is being made to people in the political sphere, and they're the same people who are making these changes for political reasons. So they're not going to turn around and say, "Oh, okay.
Oops, we made a mistake. We're sorry."
This is something that Ken started. Some.
You may remember that last summer, Ken, I helped him a little bit. Ken had a sign-on letter saying extend the state of emergency or adjust the statute because under the open meetings law over the summer we couldn't meet. So
that's what he's looking to do now.
Well, yeah, except that it expires next Wednesday, is it?
The 16th.
16th of March.
Yeah.
So somewhere between land use and YEL, the open meetings law will kick back in, and we can meet all we want on Zoom, but we can't vote.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
Technically speaking, hey Peter, technically speaking, it's not really a meeting because in order to be a meeting, you have to have a quorum, and quorum means you're present. And under the open meetings law, being present means physically in the same space as each other with the public.
Well, I'm hoping minimally our applicants can still appear via Zoom. So I think it'll be
There's
much
no
more
reason why the applicants can't appear by Zoom. It has to do with us and anybody who, of the public, whether applicant or just, neighbor, whether they want to be in the same room with us. And subject to the capacity limitations of the room, we have to let them.
I guess we'll have the April full board here.
Well, I'm hoping somebody's talking to you about it because the number of times your name came up on Monday at the should we or shouldn't we meeting with Elizabeth, your ears must have been burning.
Yeah, Max is in
Gosh.
touch with, he's in touch with my people, so they'll let me in on it at some point.
One,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more committee member or not. Let's wait another minute or two.
So Gary Pelton writes in Q&A, I know the governor made it legally permanently for co-op boards to meet virtually. That doesn't apply to us. The answer is no.
No.
We, the Community Education Council, the New York City Council, and other bodies politic are governed by something called the Open Meetings Law. And the Open Meetings Law says what I was saying before. And unfortunately, it hasn't been updated since, about 2001, 2003, when Zoom was just a twinkle in somebody's eye.
If that much.
But is that the difference between, like, I guess we're considered a government
Yes.
agency?
We sure are.
committee? There you
That's
go.
also why we can't ask people if they're vaccinated. The interesting thing to me is we can't ask people if they're vaccinated, but you can.
Hey, Susan.
Hmm? What's that?
We, the community board, can't ask people if they're vaccinated. We certainly can't ask them as a condition of being in the room with us, but we can't even ask them without that because government is governed by HIPAA. And so that's
Right.
confidential, personal, identifiable medical information that is correctly protected from disclosure. As a result, but the queer thing is that Goddard Riverside can, and Fordham can, and Saints Paul and Andrew can, and Road of Shalom can. So the interesting thing to me is we meet there, we can't exclude somebody, but they can.
So what do you do? Yeah.
Which sounds like a back door bigger than the front door to me, but okay.
So it looks like we have all the committee members who are going to be here, except maybe Paige, who said she might be late. And Susan is here, even though she told me she was going to be late. She is not late.
Yeah, she made it. She ran
So
all the
we
way from
have a
Newark.
quorum, and we can start the March meeting of the Preservation Committee of Community Board 7 Manhattan. And my name is Michelle Parker, and I, along with Kay Carpin, are the co-chairs of this committee. And we will have the rest of the committee introduce themselves. Susan Schwartz, wave.
Guilty as charged. Hello.
Clary Newell,
That's me. Hi.
Mark Diller,
Hi, I'm your minute taker tonight, so any name that's longer than one syllable will need to be spelled.
we have Joshua Cohen. He's there.
Hi.
Josh.
Very formal, thank you.
We and we have Peter Sampton.
All right.
And we have three, our committee will hear your application. Oh, do we have any members who are on the board who are not on the committee? Do you see anybody, Mark?
I do not. And there's nobody among attendees that I see in that
There's no
capacity.
attendees yet. All right, because I'm supposed to keep track of the non-committee board members as well. We are an advisory committee. So we send our resolution about your application to LPC. And they hopefully take that under consideration when they are deciding their wheres and whats and wherefores. We respectfully ask that when you make your presentation, you tell us if you have a date at LPC, and FYI, somebody from the committee always attends one of those meetings. So it's nice to see you here, and it'll be nice to see you at LPC. I think I covered everything. We'll have you make your application. The first application is 51 West 70th Street. And that is an application for a certificate of appropriateness regarding A, modifying the basement and parlor floor front facade and fenestration, B, modifying the fenestration on the existing rear yard extension and facade, and C, expanding the penthouse. Committee members can ask questions during the presentation. If there are non-committee members, they can ask after, and the public can ask after that. We'll close the application. That part of the application we'll discuss amongst the committee, come forward with a resolution, and the committee will vote on a resolution. Thank you.
Then we bring that to the full community board and.
Oh, yeah, that's
They
right.
do whatever they do, but we
Yes,
usually
Our-
go along with this.
our full board meeting is Wednesday, April 5th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Location to be announced. That's what it says on the little piece of paper I have here. All right, who is here for 51 West 70th Street? For all of that?
Hi, that's me.
Okay, Jennifer McKenzie.
Mhm.
Okay, are you going to share your screen?
Sure, I can do that if that's
Does that work for you, Mark?
I have, either way is fine with me. So if Jennifer wants to do it, probably more efficient.
Okay, great.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. 1 second. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
I can, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, so just to give you a high level overview, you know, our project's at 51 West 70th. We're on the north side of the street. Our facade faces south. Currently, this is a multi-family building, and our clients are a young family who want to restore this to a single family residence. You know, historically, this townhouse had a stoop. For largely budgetary reasons, we're not able to restore the stoop. However, we would like to make a few modest changes to the first 2 levels of the facade to better, you know, accommodate a garden level entry, but also maintain some of this parlor level ornaments and details so that in the future it's still possible to keep that in a stoop condition. So I'll just start hopping through here. So here's our block. Here we are at 51. Most of the townhouses on the south side of this block have similar height. Most of them have a penthouse at the top as well. So we also have one. We have a penthouse that we are actually demolishing, and the proposed penthouse is set far enough back that it's not visible from the street. It's not even going to the LPC public hearing in the end. So so I won't get into too much detail about that, but the current one is actually very visible from, I think, Columbus, and it will no longer be. So here we are.
So you're not expanding the penthouse, you're removing the penthouse?
We're removing the penthouse and replacing it with a new one that's going to be farther set back. So the footprint's similar, but it's just going to be at a different location and no longer visible. So I'll show you sections that just clarify some of those details.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, did you say that, I'm sorry to interrupt, did you say that that is no longer before us? That's going to be approved or not approved at staff level?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's some information here to, you know, you're going to see it in section, but we're not going to go through it in detail because it's just going to be a staff level issue at this point. Yeah. Okay. So here are some historic photos of our townhouse. This is the 1940s tax photos. Our house was developed as a row of 5 originally in a AB pattern. So, you know, the oldest photos that we have of our townhouse don't include the stoop. However, 2 doors down, you can see this guy here still has a stoop, and our design was very, very similar to this one. And sometime before 1940, it got clipped off. So a bit down farther on the block, part of a different row, but on the same sort of street wall, 31 and 29, plus some others that I don't have photos of here. You can kind of see that historically the response to taking the stoop away is that all the parlor level openings become the same size. And so our townhouse is actually the only house on the block where that pattern doesn't happen. So these are from 2011. You can see number 43, which is part of our original row. The stoop was taken away and the 3 parlor level openings are sort of homogenized. Same with the townhouses down the block a bit. And ours still has the transom condition at the parlor level and a kind of wider sort of raised window condition over here that is a little, you know, dissimilar from everything else on the block. So that's one thing that we're going to review in detail a bit later.
Excuse me, is there a way for you to make the images a little bit bigger?
Yeah, let me just pop out of here and then I can easily just zoom. Yeah, so let me just go back to those photos and maybe zoom in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So this is us. So you can see that our former parlor door is still a little, it doesn't have that consistent rhythm like you see every place else on the block. So this is basically one of our triplets, I guess. So all the entrance and framing actually got taken off back in the 40s or before the 40s. We don't want to do that. We want to keep all of that. We would just like to reduce the size of the opening so that we have a consistent rhythm. And that's also what happens down farther on the block. So we're really the only case on the block where that type of opening pattern doesn't happen. So that's one thing that we are, soliciting public feedback on.
And is the reason for that just aesthetic, or is there something on the interior that?
Yeah, so I think it was maybe, I'm not sure when this was first turned into a multifamily, but it did undergo a pretty extensive renovation, I think in the 90s, to turn this into a lot of tiny little studio apartments, I think like 12 or 16. So that's why you see a lot of these windows here have a wall sort of dying into the center of the window. There's just a lot of like poorly done divisions happening here. So all of that's going away, and now it's single family. So this front room is really being restored to a kind of parlor level, living room, parlor kind of. This is, this is going to be one of the nicest rooms in the house. This is where the fireplace, the living room kind of conditions are happening. So from the interior, having 3 consistent like window sizes would be greatly, greatly preferable to the condition that we have here.
Got it.
All right. So let me go back to full screen for now. And if anyone needs me to zoom in, just let me know and I'll do that again.
I'm sorry, can we pause on that for another moment, because I'm taking the minutes and now I think I just wrote something that's not true. You compared this building to ones down the street and said that others down the street had homogenized the sizes of the window openings and that you weren't going to do that, but now it sounds like you are going to do that, but preserve the detail around the former doorway opening. Which is correct, or where did I go wrong? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. That's so we would like to homogenize the size of our openings, but instead of clipping off the kind of canopy and framement, so you can see 43 used to be a copy of ours, and all the detail at the top has been removed. So it's just kind of stripped away, whereas ours, we'd like to reduce the size of the opening, but keep all of the stonework over the door.
Got it now. Thank you.
Okay. So you can kind of see it pretty clearly in this drawing. So over here on the right, actually, let's just kind of look at the center one here. This is the original design, and this is the townhouse that has maintained the most original detail. So you can see the full stoop, the parlor level door and framement. Over here to the right, you can see that a lot of that stonework was taken off, in the 30s, 40s, sometime. So we want to keep the stonework, but just reduce the opening. So on the left here, this is our proposed design, where all we're doing is kind of reducing that opening size to look more like a window instead of a door without a stoop. Okay.
Does that involve the application of new materials to achieve that change?
No, they're not new materials. Everything will be all the materiality is just going to be to match what's existing. So it's the original brownstone with some sort of brownstone colored paint. So everything is just going to be matched. Okay. So let's see. Maybe we could just talk about this from, the front facade and then talk about the rear in a bit. So I'll stay focused on the front a bit. So just to kind of review what's happening in detail. So all that area where the stoop used to be, there's no articulation, no detail whatsoever. It really just got clipped off and it's like a flat plane and it's not particularly, resolved or harmonious. So what we would like to do is in this kind of like clipped off area to take a lot of this original stone detail and to replicate a version of it down here at the entry level. And you can also see in this demolition drawing, the proposed opening, or rather the proposed demolition of this former parlor opening. So if we go over to the proposed drawing, you can see what we'd like to do is to take a lot of this stonework and just replicate that relief pattern and bring some of that down to the garden level entry. So we're not really touching any of this historic stuff over to the left. So, you know, in the future, if they put a stoop back, everything else is still untouched. This will just be kind of like a temporary resolution to this garden condition, this garden level entry condition that, who knows, in 50, 60 years, it can still be restored.
Comparing the prior slide, it looks as if you are lowering the sill level though.
That's right.
Now will be the window to match the other two. So you're adding some height at the bottom end of that opening.
That's correct.
You're increasing the opening.
Yes, yes. So this area here, this sill lowers. The header also lowers a bit, and then the sides will also come in. Yeah. You can see that there. Let's see. So we can talk about, we'll get into more detail about the actual modification to the existing stone in a couple slides, actually. So let me see if I can make my way there. Yeah, so here are some photos of the existing front facade. So you can see that where the stoop used to be, it's really just fully stripped away. And you can kind of see this line here where these pilasters are resting. That's basically the line from which, you know, we're not doing anything to that line above. It's only below that line. So we're just going to recreate, you know, kind of like a deeper, I forget the sort of base of the pilaster, if you will, and then replicating some of these details on this plane. So here's the entry opening that's there now. This will be the new primary opening. And then these other two openings will now be just windows. Okay, and then, so here's our proposed design. And so you can see this thick dotted line. This really encapsulates, or this includes all the area of the stone modification. So it's going to be inside of this enframement. It's going to be around our new entry door. And there's also a little moment here, just a piece of stone dividing the garden level window from the basement level window. And we just like to remove that one piece so that we can have a harmonious sort of rhythm down here at the base. Okay, so any questions so far about this front facade, garden level, parlor level area?
I've got one more, which is the left hand, what's now a window, is a in-kind matching the middle opening restoration to the original. Is that right?
No, well, the original opening has, wish I had a section here, but basically there are like cellar windows kind of at the bottom here that are happening here-ish. So if you just take this line and kind of continue it across, that's where, actually, I think I have demo drawings of that. One moment, let's see. So right here, there's a piece of stone separating this garden level window from this basement, this cellar window. So we would just like to bring that opening down to the ground. This one has already been removed, and this was formerly a door.
Right.
So it's original, but there's only one remaining. So it's more about keeping a consistent sort of logic with this opening on the left that's already been created.
So if I could follow up on that, because when I was looking at this in advance of the meeting, I was confused by, just hold that drawing right there, please. On the left-hand one, now maybe that's a demolition plan. Whoops, now you've just moved. Okay, please stop right there. Because there's an indication on the leftmost window that it's operable. Is that because it's currently the door?
That's right, yeah.
And so it's not going to be operable later?
Correct. Yeah. So the current condition, the main door for the multifamily property is over here on the left. There's also an unused entry door over here on the right. It's just been locked up. There's like a trash container in front of it now, and the gates are locked. So yes, this is already used as a door, but our proposal is that the two openings on the left are windows.
And that they be in effect floor to ceiling.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And the building was purchased empty?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's vacant right now. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if we don't have any other questions about the front facade, I could move on to some of the rear items. You good? Okay.
And just briefly, with the front facade, we're talking about the, it's actually 3 different things, isn't it? You're making,
Yeah, I guess.
Go ahead.
I mean, I guess we could break it up a few ways, but I think the primary, yeah, so we want to change the size of this opening, the former parlor door. We would like to add some additional stone detail to the new door enfraintment at the garden level. And then we would like to also homogenize the 2 openings at the left at the garden level.
Have you shown us the detail on the new door to the right on the basement floor?
Yeah, let's see. I'll just jump to that page.
It's like maybe it's over there.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so here's a drawing of our proposed new garden stone enfraintment as well as the door itself.
I should have said garden, not basement, thanks.
Garden, yeah. So here you can see the historic reference. All of the townhouses on this block, including our row, just have 2 single panel glass storm doors, and then behind there's another wood panel door. I was up there with LPC last week, and we don't think that these multi-panel doors kind of behind the storm doors are actually original. We think they were probably a pair of single panel doors behind that as well. Regardless, we would like to have an opaque door just for privacy purposes, because beyond our front door, we have it looks straight down a corridor and into some, living spaces. So instead of having the glass storm door, we just like it to be opaque, or our clients would. So we're just proposing to replicate the pair of single panel doors just without glass. And then to take some of that stonework from above and to bring it down here. So we don't have the floor to ceiling height to introduce the transom, which is happening at most entrance doors on the block, but we'd like to recreate a version of that in stone. So those proportions are maintained and kind of brought down from the parlor level down to the garden level, but it's just going to be a stone kind of transom, if you will.
I'm sorry, can I just jump in and ask if you have room for the stone, why don't you have room for glass? I didn't follow that.
Oh, so our ceiling, can I sketch on this? I don't think so. So our ceiling is, can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our ceiling is basically right here. And
So
then
wouldn't
Yeah,
work
so-
on the interior.
exactly, yeah, and then right above it, we have structure, and then basically at this level, you're already at the floor of the parlor level. So there's really no.
While we're on the topic of floors intersecting with the fenestration and so forth on that lower level, when you made a point earlier about a cellar window that peeks up into the areaway, and that you're in effect going to incorporate that into the tall, thin windows to the west of what we're talking about here. Will there be a line in the middle of that window where the floor between the cellar and the basement come in?
No, we're just eliminating. So the cellar right now down I don't even think that's an original detail. This sort of that volume of the window kind of popping up from the cellar, because at some point, I'm not sure when, somebody made some very unfortunate apartments in the cellar. And so I think that was some attempt to get the bare minimum of light and air down there. But we're not keeping any of that. And the existing cellar is going to be just an unfinished space in the proposed design. So everything at the garden level is that volume's coming up right up to the facade. There's nothing kind of like popping up from the.
Good.
From the
Okay.
cellar.
Got it. Thanks.
So does that mean the garden level floor is lowered, or is that just some
No,
weird
no. Yeah, right now there's some weird kind of hack that happened at some point, and we're just basically restoring it to something a little more normative.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe let's talk about some of the rear changes now. Okay, so we have the front facade here. At the rear, where are my drawings? Here we go. Okay. So at the rear facade, we've got this 3-story extension at the rear, pretty typical. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what this volume kind of looks like. Lots of punch windows at the rear. There's a door kind of exiting to this little terrace up here, and then there's another door to the back garden at the garden level. So for these upper windows, we'd like to lower these sills to restore it back to their original opening. So let me see if, let me just jump to that page, 1 second. There we go. So you can see, these are photos of our rear facade. You can kind of see in these moments under the sills that, you know, it's been infilled to raise the height of the sill. And you can also see that our neighbors here on the left, part of the original row, everything is a bit lower. It's about 6 rows of brick lower. So we just want to restore that to its original height. That infill happened at the top 2 levels. So that's where we are proposing just dropping those sills. So these 5 windows. And then when possible, we want to keep the existing sill and just, you know, put it back in its new / original location. So over here on the left is the proposed design where, you know, here's our kind of property line. Here are our neighbors on the left. We just want to align it with those guys and restore it to what it was formerly.
Are you
So
proposing
thank you
any, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Thank you. So thank you for showing us the neighbors. Not everybody does. For the purposes of the minutes, how much are you lowering those sills? Is it about 1 foot or 2, or how much is it?
Yeah, I think the top windows are going to be lowered about 1 foot, and then maybe the ones below that, maybe 14 to 16 inches.
Got it. Thanks.
I was just going to ask, it does not appear to me that you're proposing to change the footprint of the addition at all, either north-south, sideways, or front-back?
No, it's staying exactly the way it is.
Just so the whole thing on, well, maybe you're not finished yet, but it's, at least it's restoring the original sizes of the windows is so far what we've heard.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about this kind of lower level next. So I'm zoom into this stuff. Okay, so.
And you're leaving the
some,
L. You're not filling it in, right? You're just.
Yep.
Yeah. So our setback is actually here at the kind of main facade. So we can't, even if we wanted to. Yeah. So none of the envelope footprint, none of that is really changing. We're really just talking about changing the sizes at the openings. Okay. So you can kind of see here. These are some photos of the existing conditions at the rear. These are just, you know, some illustration of the fact that the block is completely closed in. So, you know, you can't see anything from the other streets. So what we're proposing at the parlor level, our new kitchen is back here. So a lot of these openings we'd like to enlarge substantially. The floor above that is the new primary bedroom. So we'd like to make some changes to these openings as well. And then at the garden, this, of course, is opening to the backyard, so we want to open this up quite a bit too. Jump to those photos, those drawings. Yeah, so you can kind of see in 3D what we're proposing here. So new terrace with this kind of, you know, large expanse of glass opening to the terrace, and then these existing headers we will reuse when possible. I think in a couple of these cases we might just need to extend it, but both of these would come to the floor level, both floors of windows.
Oh, I'm sorry, could you go back to that slide for a second? I'm still trying to take notes.
Mm-hmm. You just want to go back to that 3D view?
Well, okay, maybe I can get it here. I guess the question I'm struggling to ask is, it looks like there's now a balcony or a terrace at the parlor level.
Mm-hmm.
Is that bounded? Is that a 30? Where's the 30-foot setback, and how far does that go, and like that?
Oh, I don't think. I think the setback is just for the volume of the building itself. The terrace is within bounds of, yeah, there are no code kind of questions about that.
Okay. That'll be between you and the Department of Buildings, I guess. Okay.
Are you saying that the original building minus the extension has only a 30-foot yard? Because typically it's the extension that is 30 feet, isn't it?
No, Clary, it's not.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's why people do full width extensions, because they want to add to the volume, but they have to pull back the L in order to do it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we just don't. Yeah.
We're glad you're not doing that, by the way.
Hello?
Right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Paige.
Oh, Paige.
Hi, Paige.
It's Paige, hi.
Hey, Paige is here, yay.
Sorry about that. I have a few questions going back to the fourth floor with the elongation of the windows, which is great, but you have a conflict with the railing. How is that going to be handled?
I think we're just gonna, in plan, I think we're just gonna kind of turn it, so.
So it will be chamfered, or you see right now, it goes straight into the sill, and you're going to be lowering that to the original one. So how are you going to keep the railing? How is that connection going to be made so it's not penetrating your window, et cetera? Do you have a detail for that?
We don't have a detail for it, but you know, whether or not we keep this original railing and modify it or replace the whole thing is still a question. But it will basically just turn at an L, and then it's going to connect right here. So, you know, from the interior, you're going to be able to see it, but it will be connecting to the brick over here. And we'll probably make some modified parapet condition here to deal with that.
And I apologize for arriving late, but the question is, the air conditioning and the vents.
No.
Sorry, I have an Airedale here who likes to participate in preservation. Yes, and they can hear you, so quiet. Sorry, we've had a long journey today and came late. Are all the openings where the air conditioner and the vents, is that going to be stitched in with matching brick?
Yeah, all these openings are being closed up, and we will make our best effort to just match the existing brick.
Great. And then if you go to the lower two floors now, I'm catching up. My concern was yes. So we've had this problem before, and this one's a little bit mysterious because the L to your neighbor on looking at the picture to the right is actually set back. So the question is how, with the terrace that you have there, I think it's the modified rear openings, the 3D view that you have of the drawing, which is very good. How is that going to play with your neighbors? It's a peculiar angle the way you have it, because the deck actually is into the party wall, but the railing is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're talking about this setback here at our neighbors.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So, you know, we really can't do much about that open space. So we're really just going to extend our terrace within the footprint of our property. And I mean, we're still going back and forth with the clients about what to do about just the fact that it's not particularly beautiful. And for now, it might just be planters and trees and just a sort of natural looking way of creating a bit of a, I don't know, like a visual block from looking at this kind of this bizarre roof condition happening at their garden level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my last question is, it looks like there's a gutter or conduit that is down the, at that party wall.
Mhm.
How is that going to be reconciled?
So this drainage is not going to remain in our proposed design. All the drainage will be internal, so it's not going to be a sort of applied gutter like this. So this will just be gone.
So you will have a stopper on the roof of your property that will drain internally into the basement somehow?
Right, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Mhm.
Paige.
Okay. Any other questions about the rear, the top or bottom?
Could I see the balcony again? I'm having a hard time visualizing it, but it's not your fault.
Of course, just close the door, thanks.
So on the right, that dark part is the neighbors.
Oh, this little moment? No, you're just seeing all the railing, but it's all stacked because of the
Oh, I see.
perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just the same railing pattern you see here.
And when you're talking about plants and stuff, that's at the garden level?
No, I think we'll probably just put planters on the terrace, kind of at this area,
Uh-huh.
just so, you know, these two, just to basically provide a little bit of visual privacy. So we looked into, you know, the kind of like light and air, I guess, bounds of what our neighbors are entitled to and what have you. And, you know, our clients actually wanted to build something in between those two spaces, but we recommended they not do that. I just don't think it's nice to the neighbors or will feel very nice. So I think it's going to be something very low impact, just like loose planters, like a literal pot with a big tree in it, just sitting on this balcony terrace.
And one more question I have, if I could, on the garden level, the left hand in the extension, are those
Mhm.
doors or windows, that pair?
These are both windows. Everything on the extension are windows.
And is there a reason why I'm not sure if you'd call them muntins in this case, but why the dividers are 2/3 of the way down? If I'm reading.
Yeah, there were just some sort of just visual kind of proportional sort of moves we were trying to make. So, yeah, but there's, you know, there's no real, there's nothing about the existing architecture that's driving that. It's more about aesthetic preferences, I guess.
And sorry, I have one more on a different topic, but at this level, on the garden level, we've become interested in the surface of the garden in these houses. What is the current surface? I don't think your renderings show any plantings, and I'm not sure if they show what the current surface is. What is it, and what are you planning to do, if anything, that would change it?
Sure. So I will show you the existing, which is a really scary, moldy drainage nightmare of concrete and some moss, it looks like.
Is it all hardscape now?
Yeah, it's all hardscape, and then at the rear there is this raised, you know, 5-foot planted area. So just for budget reasons, we were really not doing much back here. It's just going to be a bit of a blank slate. So all we're proposing right now is that this 5-foot planter just gets dropped to, you know, the ground level. And then instead of this concrete, we're just going to introduce probably bluestone pavers or something, just something very minimal. So that later at a future date when our clients have more money, they can actually do something a little more thoughtful back here.
Well, we had a discussion with another applicant recently about the permeability or the surface they were, given that you're changing the surface, and that's probably a good thing because it's pretty scuzzy, employing permeable materials which is really an increasing issue on these back yards. Can we in some way talk about that?
Yes, we're super sensitive to the drainage issue. You know, we are aware that these gardens can flood very easily, and right now the drainage back here is very it's just not sufficient at all. So we are dealing with water through drainage more than we are like a sort of permeability across the surface. It's just a little easier to control that way. So that's our plan.
In the area of rear yard upkeep, I noticed now that the cinder blocks have been turned on their side so that you have the holes visible. I would recommend that you cement those because little creatures do live in them, and it would make it very kind of unpleasant because not only do we get rats back there, but bees, etc. I'm a fellow brownstone owner, and it's you'd be surprised what can survive in a backyard. And you may not want those openings because they invite residents that you are unwanted, shall we say.
Yeah, that's a good note. Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I'm confused as to how replacing the concrete that's there now with bluestone will, which is stone, will affect drainage. Never mind permeability, which you said you're not addressing. But why does replacing one entirely full pavement and hardscape with another kind of hardscape? What does that accomplish? And looking better.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that a lush landscape rear yard is preferable. Our clients agree that's something they want to do at some point. I think leaving this concrete the way it is just really, really unsightly, and it's just bad, as we can all see. But what the drainage issue right now is that there's just a single drain for the entire rear yard, and all of the runoff from the roof is drained, or a lot of it kind of falls down here. There's no real parapet to catch a lot of that water. There's a gutter up here. Basically, this one drain is doing a lot of work, and it's not doing its job. So our proposal is just going to make sure that we have adequate ground drains throughout, like placed throughout. So it's just going to be able to handle way, way, way more volume. So yeah, I guess that addresses the permeability thing, because we can't necessarily, like, the ground is not necessarily as, basically really good drainage is going to be able to handle way more water than the earth. So we're planning for water runoff that way. And we also hope that one day our clients will do something, you know, more lush and interesting back here, but it's just not in their budget at this moment. So
I have one last question, and that is, I see that you have the telephone cable that goes across. Are you trying, will that be buried and then pop up on the other side so you don't have that?
You know, it hadn't occurred to me to dig into that just yet, but we will definitely address that, because it definitely can't stay there. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but we will.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
my advice is it's very slow with the phone company because they have to pull a new cable. So you're either going to go up and over the roof, which you don't want, because then you'll never get your phone lines serviced. And where the box goes, I don't actually see it, but maybe it's that gray box on the bottom. But anyway, I would ask that you look into that so that that doesn't become a problem with the facade restoration.
You
Okay.
could put a trellis there.
Yes,
Yeah,
fellas.
I just run there pretty.
Wisteria, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
All right, so I think that mostly covers the high level items. You know, I guess I can show you some other things that we're not getting in too much detail about just on account of it being staff level, but just to show you, this is the section of the existing penthouse and our new penthouse is getting set way back. So you can't see it from anywhere, but the volume is pretty similar. And it's worth noting too that all the windows are just being replaced in kind. There are some existing brick molds that we will either restore and maintain or match. So nothing too controversial happening at the upper levels on the front facade. Yeah. So here are some kind of before and after drawings, if you guys have any other questions or comments.
Michelle and
Anything
Kay,
else?
there are a bunch of questions
Yeah.
in the Q&A, or maybe you want to just call on those people. I don't know.
Oh, okay, let me see. I think I have to stop sharing to see those. 1 second.
All right. If there's nothing else from the committee, then we could take the questions from others.
You want to read that, Kay, or you want me to?
Or do people want to speak them out loud? Okay. I can
Jay
read them.
Francis?
Do you want me to promote the people who asked?
Yeah, Jay Francis, Joan Cohen. She's got 3 comments.
Great. All right. Well, if they would like to join and speak, then great. Otherwise, we can ask them.
What happened here?
Carl
see
looks
there's-
like Pooch.
Carl
Do you
has
see
a
it?
hand.
Okay.
Okay. Well, do you want me to start by asking these questions or?
Yeah, why don't you do
Hi,
that?
this is Carl Pucci. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm a little impertinent here, but I'm a presenter later on and I have not been able to join the panelists. I'm watching carefully, but I'm just hoping I could be included in as a panelist so I can make my presentation later.
I'll take care of that. when
I'm
the
sorry to
time comes.
interrupt your current program, that's all.
I'll take care of that
Yes.
when the time comes.
Thank you.
We
So
got
you
you.
want me to read from Jay Francis's comment?
Sure.
The new penthouse is being moved back north to take advantage of the, not to reduce the, oh, this is fine, but the current mock-up of the new penthouse seems to be extremely large and heavily loaded to the north. That and the fact that the existing penthouse is being demolished raises a lot of design questions. That's a major job take on to an existing structural wood deck on a 100+ foot building. 100+, I guess, year-old building. But staff
address
level
that?
is taking care of that, is addressing that part of your application. Is that true, Ms. McKenzie?
Yeah, so, you know, LPC is going to deal with the visibility issues, and then the DOB will be responsible for making sure that everything is suitable on a structural front. So
That
Okay.
seems a little unusual. Normally,
Yeah.
for a rooftop addition or a replacement, the
Yeah.
community board does weigh in because it impacts the neighbors on either side and the visibility from the street. We don't care so much about the visibility on the backside because it's an enclosed donut from what I gathered, right? But I think we do have an interest in the penthouse.
yeah, so we built a physical mock-up, which is still there. And yeah, so we've been going back and forth with Landmarks about whether or not this is something that can be handled at staff level. They've been up there. The mock-up had probably like 2 inches of visibility from the west corner of Columbus, like a 6-foot square of like sidewalk where you could see it. And so as a result, we are just going to change our design so you actually can't see it from anywhere from the public right of way. So for that reason, it's just a staff level decision at this point.
Michelle and Kay, I think
Yeah.
you should check that because
Yeah.
this would be a first that we
Yeah,
don't.
that's, okay. A
You
first
know-
ever, because you know, I haven't been on the committee as long as you have,
Well,
Paige.
Well, Mark and certainly
Jay.
who are my other colleagues up here
Peter.
that I saw. Bear with me. Let me get the line up here of Susan and who else we got from the old days. I
Peter.
think, and Peter, it's unusual that they allow a replacement in a different configuration on a rooftop without, oh, Clary, you're the other one. I just saw your picture pop up. It's
Well-
unusual, isn't it? That we don't weigh in?
Well, it's more than unusual, Paige, in my estimation, in that one of the reasons why a townhouse renovation under the new staff level approval guidelines is referred to the community board and to public hearing is when you do both a rooftop addition and a rear yard adjustment of some kind. One or the other won't always trigger it if you follow their design guidelines. So it's odd here that I'm pretty sure it is the combination of the rooftop addition and the rear yard adjustments that trigger public review, and yet now they've removed, maybe it's because they're not enhancing the footprint of the rear L extension, that the only thing that merits public review really is the front facade. Color me skeptical about that terrace back there. I don't think it's inappropriate, but I do think that it is not that it's not trivial in respect of the zoning aspects of this. But of course, I'm going to be overruled on that. Anyway, to answer
I'll
your
check
question,
that.
yeah, it's unusual.
I'll check that with LPC. Not that we don't believe you, Ms. McKenzie.
Sure, of course, I understand.
It's just that we don't want to make a report and create work for either you or the commission.
Right.
But recently, other projects that I've seen over the last year and a half, pandemic aside, we have commented on both. So this would be unusual, to be honest, because you're
I was
removing-
surprised. I was surprised too. I've been talking with LPC to make sure that everything that we show to you is what I'm meant to show to you. So what is included in my presentation is very much dictated by what LPC has told me to include or not include. So
who are you working with as at staff level? Who's your contact?
So I've been working with Leanne and then Caroline too.
Kane?
Yeah.
Okay. That gives me reassurance, believe it or not.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
I'm not being nosy. It's just that you're under some good guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been talking all the time, going through this in a lot of detail, and I think it's worth even going to Columbus now. You can actually see a lot of the existing penthouses, very visible. So, we're reducing it to nothing and sort of restoring a little piece of the skyline. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to these other questions, and then we're getting close to the 1 hour mark, so we should see what we can do here. I can read these.
Okay.
Joan Cohn says, I am an owner architect residing at 41 West 70th, so a few doors down. Unless I missed this, it appears that you've not presented any hard evidence that the original 1891 stoop entries lacked glass bifolds in front of the solid cores. I assume on the front door there, right? Regardless, for the most part, an existent rhythm exists on the block of glass bifolds in front of solid doors. Why? You mentioned that you wanted some privacy behind there, and that was the reason for the solid
Mhm.
doors. Did you give some thought to adding glass in front?
So those, all of the townhouses with 2 sets of doors, they all have a sort of vestibule condition, which we just don't have.
Hmm.
It wasn't original to the garden level to have a vestibule condition, and we are not adding one. You're really just walking into a room.
Yeah.
So for that reason, it just doesn't feel appropriate to have any kind of visibility through that front, especially because it's in alignment with a corridor that kind of takes you all the way to the back, so you can see quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that. Do you have any plans to excavate now or at any point in the future? And if so, can you elaborate to what them? No big swimming pool in the basement or anything like
No
that?
swimming pool, no elevator pit. Yeah, no excavation.
All right, good. And then we have a couple questions from the Block Association from the next street down. What's planned for noise abatement for 70th and 71st? Okay, you can see these questions.
Can I?
Or can you? Okay, what's planned? Do you see the chat or the question at Q&A?
Let's see. Okay, I didn't see this before. Let's see.
There's 3 questions that are, or first two are kind of related from the 69th Street Block Association, which I assume covers more than
Okay,
69th.
so we'll talk about Joan Cohen's first comments. And then what justification do you have to change this lovely pattern?
Yeah, we
That
took
one?
care of that, I think.
Took care of
or
that.
At least we
Go to the
addressed it.
Block Association questions.
Oh, I see. Okay. Got it. What is planned for noise abatement? We don't have a concrete plan, but we will certainly have one. If you guys have any like particular concerns, I can make sure that that's included in how we address that.
I guess that's why they want to know if the project manager will be involved, will be available.
Yes, right. And typically there's a communication channel opened up from the community and the project manager, so that if there are any problems, complaints, there can be an open back and forth communication.
Okay, well, that'll be good. Yeah. So we can be in touch with that person and certainly keep them involved. Yeah. Okay, so then regarding the rear balcony, there's a garden apartment that will lose sunlight because of the balcony. So, this is now single family. So our garden level will in fact lose a lot of sunlight, and that's just something that our clients are fine with. But the neighboring property, there's a fence in between us. So, it's already blocked and our terrace won't have any impact on that.
Good.
So let's see, a balcony appears to go right up to the property line and within a few feet of neighbor windows. Is that permitted by code? Yes. How will rear concrete be broken and removed? What will be the noise level involved? So the rear is actually all brick, and I suspect that will actually be quite a bit quieter because that's a little more malleable of a substance than breaking concrete. So I don't anticipate that being a huge issue, but that will be part of the noise management.
Right, and they may be thinking about the ground,
Ground.
in the backyard.
Oh, I see. Yeah, also I'm not sure. That's something that we'll just have to.
That seems like a project manager issue.
Project manager, communication with the project manager appears to be pretty important.
And then you see the last question about the length. I assume the length of time of the project.
Time. Yeah, I assume.
We won't quote you in 2 years, 3 years from now. But
Oh, no. We're not talking multiple years, maybe a year construction. But as you can see, the bulk of the work is going to be interior work. So I don't suspect that it would cause too much trouble with the neighbors. Let's see, how long will the project take, and if it goes over, is there any penalty? Like penalty from the contractor, or?
I don't know if you should answer that question. Any penalty
on taking parking spots? I have no idea. I don't know anything about my client's car situation.
Let's,
But obviously, there's no driveway or anything like that involved.
So it's unclear to me who this, let's see, this block association president is. So are they on this call? Or is that
Yeah.
somebody that,
It would be great to get, a name
yeah.
for
So I can
that
look-
associated with that you can put in touch with the project manager.
Is that Shane is asking these questions?
Oh, okay. So this isn't a co-op. This is really just, our clients own this building. It's going to be single family. So, they have an interest in it going as quickly as possible, of course. Everybody does, really.
Yeah.
So the answer is as fast as possible.
yes. And I don't think we have the authority and or the maybe stomach to issue to talk about could there be financial penalties if the project takes a little longer than you estimate.
Well, that's irrelevant in this project.
Yeah, that's above our pay grade at preservation here. So,
Yeah.
All right. Great. I think it's time for us to talk among ourselves and figure out what we're gonna decide in terms of
gonna do.
resolution.
Okay. So what's the process for me? Do I log off at this point or?
No,
No, you
can
stay
stay.
because we have to vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what our
sure.
vote is going to be, right?
You're very welcome to stay.
So it seems like section C, subsection C, this is agenda item number 1, sub C, is not anything that we are going to vote on. So we're voting on A and B.
I would suggest that our resolution make clear that we were told that, so that they don't think we agree with things that we are not considering because we were told not to consider them.
Okay, so we'll put that in the resolution that we were told that. You already did that, Mark?
I guess I'll be doing the first draft of the resolution, so I guess I'm talking to myself. I do that a lot.
I hope you're listening.
Hardly.
Peter, do you have any comment to make about the section A or B?
Not at the moment. No, I'll let everybody else talk first.
Paige, I appreciate yours and Clary's succinct questions. Anything you want to add to the resolution? I'm proposing a resolution to approve the application as presented. I'm sorry, Paige, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, the comments are that obviously when we see projects like this that have considerable design details, but they're not really worked out yet, it's a bit, we blind faith, shall we say. And I'm a little concerned that there are certain things that haven't really been dimensioned or worked out. So I'm not going to say no, but I'm not sure I'm going to say yes because of that. I would like to have a little bit more reassurance. I don't know how to go about that. I'll be thinking on that as you talk to other committee members. But I think for the amount of changes and the condition that the brownstone is in, which is pretty poor, to be honest, just even aesthetically, I don't want to stand in the way of progress, but I am concerned about some of the details on the back and the front door. Thank you.
There's dimensional, we have extensive documentation of this project. So if there are specific dimensional questions you have, maybe I can answer some of those, even if they're not in the presentation.
Fair enough. Okay, let me hear what my colleagues have to say first. Thank you.
Larry, you were going to say something?
A little bit, I think. I sort of agree with Paige. I think I'm comfortable enough with the amount of detail we have and on this one, and I generally support it and would be willing to vote for both of these aspects of it, although I really don't like that balcony on the back. But I have a question that's really more for my colleagues at this point. What I really don't like about this at all is replacing a 100% concrete, 100% hardscape concrete rear yard with a 100% hardscape bluestone. And you know, we had one a few months ago where they were taking out a tree, and we had a little bit of traction there on that one. I'd love to know that we have any traction on this, because this is what troubles me most about this, to go all that trouble and replace one hardscape with another. But does anybody on our committee have any better sense of whether we have any where to go with that on this one?
Susan?
I have a question. No, just in answer to Clary.
Yeah, please.
I think Landmarks hasn't yet, and it's something that I know is in the works, is looking at the environmental impact for private gardens and terraces, et cetera. And I think this is a good poster child to use Clary's words to say that in the case where there is no remnant of the old rear yard and it's de novo, that we should see things like, you know, that tree that we were all worried about before near the hardware store or whatever. And I think it's about time that we start including environmental issues, and maybe this is where we do it, Clary.
Thanks,
I don't know how
what
you
I would
do it.
suggest then, while I do support approving what we've seen with regard to the rear yard and the rear extension and the rear facade rather, and the front, that we can put in some language in our resolution saying we are nevertheless concerned about replacement, and however Mark wants to write it, replacement of one hardscape with another.
Sure.
Yeah, however Mark wants to write it. I don't see any downside in telling them that's.
Do you want to write it as a recommendation to consider?
I think anything that would,
The hardscape with the softscape?
Or at least partially softscape or something other than 100% hardscape.
permeable,
Write
something.
it, sure. I think doing
Permeable.
it,
Can we
I'd
do
be
that?
very happy if we could do it as a recommendation.
Great.
Okay.
And that may be
Yes.
all we can do in this circumstance.
But we
We
can
did
start
raise it
pecking
with
at
the,
it.
we did raise it with the 88th Street property, and
Mhm.
they didn't seem overly concerned about it, but doesn't mean if we shouldn't keep raising the issue.
Okay. Good idea, good idea. Okay, thanks, Clary. Susan, do you have any comments?
Thanks, Michelle. I think I agree with Paige. I'm a little uncomfortable with this project. I'm probably going to abstain.
Okay.
Peter? No, I'm not talking to my husband. I'm talking to my committee member, the other Peter.
There's another Peter in her life.
Peter Sampton.
Yeah, Peter Sampton. Any comment you want to make now?
No,
And Josh? No? All right, so I recommend we take a vote on this resolution. We will put the recommendation that some softscape be included with the hardscape in the donut. And we will say that we were told by the applicant that that the penthouse addition is not in consideration not in front of the committee now. It's in, we were advised that it is being looked at on staff level, but I will follow up and find out why. Because like our committee members have said, this would be a first. In the past, we have always been part of the conversation about the bulkhead, the penthouse, the taking down, building up this penthouse or bulkhead. All right.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Michelle, I would also propose to include in the resolution an appreciation for the fact that this isn't one of those all glass rear facades where they're trying to make the whole thing into a picture window, that they've preserved some of the masonry, they've preserved the lintels, they've preserved the punch windows, and actually are respecting the punch windows above. So I would propose that our resolution includes some mention of that as well on the rear facade.
Yeah,
agree.
why not? It's more in keeping with the historical character of the district. to not have completely punched out walls.
Not only that, but not to have a lot line to lot line extension, but to maintain the historic footprint of typical extensions.
Mm-hmm.
I have one other question, if I might, or comment on
Sure.
this. I'm just back to this committee a few months ago after being away from it for quite a while, but I know what we always used to do was, and I've mentioned this from time to time, is have a gradation of appropriateness. And I don't think this is one where we're holding our noses and saying minimally appropriate, but I would suggest the adjective reasonably appropriate for both of these parts.
Sounds good.
I don't know. We've had this issue from time to time.
Yeah.
Whether it.
I mean, sometimes we're wild about them and we say so, and sometimes we're holding our nose and saying, or should be saying
But
minimal.
this time we're not holding our nose, right?
No, we're
Clary?
not. I think this one is reasonable. It's
Okay.
not minimal and it's not, we love it. It's not we wild about it. It's in the middle.
Okay. All right, we could say that. Shall I take the vote?
Yes, please.
Okay, Sue Schwartz.
Sorry, I was just curious, was there an answer to the question about whether or not dumpsters that sort of thing would take up parking spots?
Well, I think we know the answer to that. Dumpsters always take up parking spots.
I think that.
I mean, I don't
that's a
mean to be
construction
caustic or
issue,
anything. but-
And that should be coordinated through our CB7 office so that the other residents are not inconvenienced. It's not a surprise.
I don't know that
And it's
that's a
very
role
noisy.
for our office.
I'm just mentioning because the West 69th Street Block Association asked the question. I just was curious if they're.
Yeah, you're right. We should have addressed it.
During demolition, yeah.
It's a DOT issue, not an LPC issue, though.
Right.
Okay,
So they should contact the office. The CBC.
Right, or we should refer them to the Transportation Committee or do something to address this concern that's been raised.
Okay, we refer them to the Transportation Committee, Susan.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Be
Yeah.
careful what you wish for.
Yeah, abstain. Thank you.
Okay. Peter Sampton. What is your vote?
Prove it.
Okay, Clary?
Yes, on both parts. I don't think we're breaking it down into two parts unless we
No.
need to. Yes, approve.
Mark?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes,
Josh?
with comments.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, with no comments.
Okay. I'm a yes, and you, Kay?
I'm a yes.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstaining, and 0 abstaining for cause. There are no non-committee board members here tonight?
Seems to
Not
be.
yet.
Okay. So
All right.
The resolution passes. The applicant should, I'm sorry, did you tell us when you're going in front of LPC? I might have missed that. Do you know?
I forget the exact date. I think, wait, yeah, the LPC public hearing, you mean?
Yes,
I think it's April 12th,
okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
all right,
that's a Tuesday, so maybe.
yeah. And we will take our resolution to the full board of Community Board 7 on April 5th. So you can go, I recommend you go on our website to find out when your application approximately will be heard. Because I'm not sure at what point in the meeting
Mhm,
that
okay.
happens. We kind
Am
of-
And
I-
then add 1 hour to that.
Am I
Sorry.
presenting to the full board or?
No, there's no need to present, but in case you want to listen in and see what we do. But we'll tell you what we do.
Great.
Yeah, there may be a TV show you want to watch instead.
No, I'm good. This is great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so
All
much.
right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it. Now, I see Jackie is here, and are your other people here, or you're going to make the presentation for 42 West 70th Street? Oh, we can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Okay. Forgot I was on mute. I'm sure you hear that every one of these meetings. Yes, the other two people involved in this project are on, but I'm going to be giving the presentation, and then they may answer questions if questions come up for the architect or project manager that I
Okay,
can't
so you
answer.
want to go
Can you
forward
let me know
then?
who they are so I can
Yep.
promote them
Of
so they
course.
can do that?
Yes, Jonathan Chen and
Oh, he's
Tim
here.
Lee.
Yeah.
I
Tim
don't see
Lee.
Jonathan
but-
Chen.
He's
I
already.
Raise your
see
hand,
Jonathan Chen's.
Oh,
We've
he's
already got him
on. Okay,
promoted.
I don't need to promote him then. And
He's having computer problems, so that's why he's on twice. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't see him either time. Oh, now I see him. Okay, and then so are both there?
Yes,
Oh, there's Tim
Jonathan
Lee.
Chen
Okay,
and Tim
you're all
Lee.
set. I'll show.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Tim, you're going to do, who's sharing their screen? We should have planned this. Tim, are you sharing your screen?
Okay, let me just read what it says on
Okay,
our agenda. It says you're here for a certificate of appropriateness regarding A, restoration of the front facade by eliminating through the wall air conditioner grills, B, addition of rooftop stair bulkhead and elevator overruns, and C, replacement of a curved bay window on the rear facade with a united fenestration system. Is that right? Okay,
yes.
we're ready.
Okay. Bear with me.
I'm gonna go get a drink of water, so.
Okay,
Sorry. Go ahead.
okay. I just have to remember how to share my screen because I don't hear from Tim.
Should be
Okay,
a big
sorry.
green button. Bring the cursor down to the bottom of the screen. There should be a big green button.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 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 I think I'm there and I'm on the wrong page. Okay, does everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay. It's, we're coming toward the end of the pandemic, hopefully, and I'm just, still figuring out Zoom. I'm like the last person to figure out Zoom. So hello, committee members. Thank you for hearing our application tonight. My name is Jackie Prudu-Vallon. I am the preservation consultant on this project. I'm here with the architect, Tim Lee of T. Lee Architects, and the project manager, Jonathan Chen. This project is 42 West 70th Street, a Renaissance Revival style row house built in 1892. It's located on the south side of the street between Central Park West and Columbus. The proposal you're seeing today is for the installation of a rooftop bulkhead and rear alterations, including removing an existing bay and enlarging window openings. Here on this introduction screen, you see photos of the existing front and rear facades in the middle and the elevation drawings of the proposed front and rear for comparison. Incidentally, a separate application has been filed for staff level restorative work at the front facade. Here is just an axon and a section to show you the mass of the proposed bulkhead at the roof, which will just be for a stair and elevator, and also the enlarged window openings, which you can see on the side of the L over here. Here is the building as it looked in the 1940s on the right, and how it looked at designation in 1968. You'll notice in the designation photo from 1968, the stoop was gone because this building was turned into apartments for a while through the mid to late 20th century. So the stoop has been restored. That was years ago now. These are just some detailed photos of the front facades, but again, there's going to be restorative work like removing these grills. That's going to be handled at staff level because it meets commission rules. Here's just to show you the existing front and the proposed front will look like. Doorway. Nothing, and this is just for your information. This is what the areaway looks like. And this is the existing rooftop. And here is the roof plan. I would like to try to zoom in on this. Can I get to zoom in? Hold on, just so you can see this. I just want you to be able to see the numbers. The Rooftop Edition, which you see here, is just a stair, like I said, a stairway and an elevator with an overrun. And it's going to be set back from the front facade about 23 feet so that it's not going to be visible from the street. Here you see the existing roof in section and the proposed roof in section. The rooftop bulkhead is going to be about 15 feet tall at its tallest point, which will be here at the elevator, top of the elevator shaft portion. Here are photos of the mock-up that were taken from the roof. Here are photos taken from the street that only document that this bulkhead is not visible from the street. So all of these pictures where you don't see this mock-up were taken while the mock-up was on the roof. And now we get to the rear, the work at the rear of the house. It's
excuse me, were they taken from the other side of the street?
Hold on, let me go back. By other side of the street, what do you mean?
When you took a picture of the building with a mock-up on the roof, was it from the other side of the street?
From the north
Yes.
side of
Yeah.
70.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So, okay. So now you're looking at the back of the building from the rear yard. You'll notice the rear yard is tiny, so it's difficult to, or nearly impossible to get a photo of the entire rear in one shot. But what is of note here is this existing half-round bay, which is at the parlor level, which we are under this application proposing to remove.
Jackie, is that bay
Yes.
original to the building?
No, from what I can, from what I've been able to see in maps, it was not part of the original construction. The original construction had this L, which you see here still, but no, this bay was, you know, from my own experience, I'm conjecturing that this was built in the early 20th century and probably at that time had a nice, you know, wood cornice on it, some nice wide wood mullions, and probably some stained glass windows in it from what I've seen at other alterations like this at houses. But this house was used as an apartment building for many decades. And I think at that point, you know, it wasn't being maintained as well as it could have been. And I think that's how this came to be enclosed with aluminum siding. And it's really lost everything that would have made it special, in my opinion. Here are photos of probes that were done, just peeling off this, like I said, just aluminum sheet, and it has aluminum windows now. So there's really nothing really exciting here anymore. Here are photos of the upper floors taken from standing on top of the L. And here's elevations comparing the existing rear and the proposed rear. So the proposal is, again, to remove this existing bay and to enlarge window openings, not construct a rear addition, but to enlarge the window openings at the L and the basement through the second floor, as well as to create an enlarged opening here so that there's just like a wider window assembly next to the door that will be exiting out onto the top of the L to create a real patio out of this L, and to replace the windows so they operate differently on the top floor. Here's just some maps to show us the footprint of the building within its block. This is the existing block plan to show you where there are additions and what they look like within this block. And what we're proposing is really actually taking away material from the back of this building. So in other words, we're actually, we're not reducing the amount of green space at the interior of the block. We're actually going to be contributing green space back. And, oh, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Just to give you some detail elevations of the upper floors to see what's happening there. And now these are just plans. And for the rear yard, let's see. I want to enlarge, I want to zoom in again so you guys can maybe read this better. Oh, let me do it this way. Oh. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, get back to here. Okay. So the grade is going to be changed slightly by about 2 feet.
That one is ready.
Higher or
With
lower?
Lower.
Later side for me.
Which incidentally, I actually think this meets commission rules because they didn't actually tell us. They were including this in the hearing scope of work. But that, okay, now I'm sorry, I can't control my screen. Trying to get to the next slide. Okay. And that is really it. So thank you for hearing this presentation. I look forward to your comments and questions.
Okay, thank you. Who's got a question? Can we go back then? I guess we should go back to the,
Oh, could you leave it up for a second? Because I'm trying to make some notes.
oh, okay. All right, then just speak up if you've got a question. Anybody?
I do. If you could clarify, Jackie, all this fenestration on the rear, it's with the multi panes, it looks like. Is that what's going on there?
Yes, this would be steel frame windows. Maybe I can zoom in on this so you can read the labels. So
steel
black,
wall.
yes.
I didn't hear what you said, Clary.
I asked about these multi-pane windows, and she said they are black steel
Black.
with true muntins. Or true
Yes.
And what's the rationale for those? I mean, it's not that we haven't seen things like this before, but what's the rationale for that design, which is so different from the original windows, from the windows above, from historic windows all around?
Right. Just design aesthetic that's preferred by ownership, and just larger glazed openings to let more light into the house. And actually, to a degree, windows like this, even steel windows in enlarged window openings at a rear non-visible facade actually meet Landmarks Commission rules. So they could get a staff level permit for most of this. The issue though is, the bay that's being removed and whether or not it should be considered significant. So if that bay were not there, Landmarks would have issued a permit for these enlarged windows already at staff level, maybe with some modifications. Maybe this, keeping this as steel without real masonry between the floors would not have been approvable at staff level, but adjustments can be made to get to a staff level permit. So my point is, window assemblies like this are approved at staff level pretty frequently, as long as they meet the parameters in the rules for the amount by which you can enlarge the openings.
So do we want to? Sorry, Paige,
Can I
go ahead.
support Clary on this? I agree that I understand the rationale, and that yes, Landmarks is changing the way they look at the rear of the buildings, but I'm confused because in the bump out for the extension, it appears that none of those windows are operable. The ones on the
bottom, yeah.
on the bottom.
On the L?
Yes, thank you.
On the side of the L?
The back side of the L, those
Okay.
windows are not operable.
Yes.
Or is it just a drawing that's missing the triangles?
I think they're just missing the triangles, but I'd have to defer to the architect to be sure.
Okay, because then we've got, even if they are operable, and then you have the large glass up above, it looks like two different eras of construction. And I would think that given the amount of work that's going in to unify this as a single family property house, row house, that it would have some vestiges rather than making it all glass, because this is on the south side of the street. And presumably won't get as much sunshine because of the proximity and the narrowness of the rear yard, right? So I think this, I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe it's just the ownership really likes this type of window, but from my eyes and hearing Clary's comments, I think it's not appropriate for this type of row house with such a shallow rear yard. I think it will be very bright during evening hours, and I think it's I know no one's supposed to say that things aren't appropriate for the rear, but in this particular case, losing the bay window, even though it's propped up on a leg, and to replace it with this, I'm not seeing it as a happy companion to the rest of the building. It looks like two different architects, the top part and the bottom.
Yeah. I agree.
Also, could you show us with the existing, the fourth and fifth floor, if that's how you count it, the top two floors, the existing windows, are those double hung? Because you're switching to casement, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I was going to.
Mark, you going to say something about that?
Yeah, I was wondering what the, so I was originally appreciate the fact that they're keeping the punch windows at the top two floors and the lintels and so forth, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm wondering why we're going to casement windows from 1/1, which is much more the standard that one would see in a rear facade like this, more utilitarian, more in keeping with that distinction between front and rear.
I don't have the answer to that. I should defer to the architect on what the exact design intent is there.
Could you just show us again the slide we had just a moment ago that does, yeah, so is this the one? So
Yes, I'm sorry, the casement windows are just preferred by the owner. We're keeping the same opening size and location as the existing. We're just changing double hung into the casement ones. The only part, I'm sorry, the only part where we are adding an extra window, if you will, is near where the door opens to the third floor terrace. We're kind of enlarging the window opening space at that location.
to make the triple.
Yes.
Yes.
So you really have sort of three different things going here. You have what were double hung, three symmetrical ones at the top that become casement for owner's preference. You then have a different configuration on the fourth floor, also casement, but with the triple job. And then this whole different thing below. A little hodgepodgey too, actually. I mean, it's hodgepodgey without really retaining any of the original, such as it was.
Yeah.
Other questions, thoughts?
If I could jump in with one other thought, and that is that because it's not original, and ignoring for a moment the demolition by neglect of the poor maintenance of that bay window, I'm not convinced that a bay window is an essential element of a rear yard. If this were on the front facade, I would say no way that I would approve it as its removal as appropriate. But I don't oppose the removal of the bay window. I am persuaded by the comments of my colleagues, especially Clary and Paige, and I think Peter, that there's too many different things going on in the rear facade to consider that, you know, even though the amount of glass is something that we and the LPC routinely does approve, it's usually in a situation where there is a unification of design elements, not where there is an introduction of a whole in this case, couple of new vocabularies that at least top to bottom don't agree with one another and don't enhance one another. I particularly like the fact that you have those muntins in the large pane glasses below, but then to remove the 1/1 above kind of flies in the face of that design element being in any way consistent. So I don't think I can approve this as presented because on the rear facade of to the extent that the rooftop is our problem, I see no issue there. But I'm very concerned about this. I don't know if I go all the way to differing architects, but different design features of what should be a unified, even if internally distinguished rear facade. That's enough from me. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree with I'm not as visually, I don't have such the visual acuity that some of you all have. But and I agree with Mark that we don't need that bay window in the back. But is there an alternative? At least have the right side be more consistent with the left, or the left more consistent with the right? Is there something else that can kind of
Top to bottom is really.
Yeah, or address the retaining the 1/1s on the top 2 floors. Something to pull it in a little bit.
As a matter of fact, you can have fake 1/1s that still operate as casements. That's not great, but we have seen some of those. We've approved some of those recently, I think.
It's very recently.
Could I suggest something in that regard? They've got this project has a very respected preservationist making the presentation. They have a very talented architect making this presentation. I know I'm more guilty of this than anybody else on this committee, of trying to redesign their building for them. But I think maybe this is a situation where our opinion is they haven't got it yet for what they've presented, and leave it to them to decide whether they want to fix this or that. I think we articulate what everybody has collectively said as being problematic, and say we recommend disapproval as that result, and let them decide what they want to do in response, rather than a detailed series of corrections and responses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right. We should not. We're not in the redesign business.
It totally does. I agree with Mark, and I think we should call the question.
Right.
Great.
I don't think we have a question yet. Do we have a question yet?
Well, the question is, I think.
Can we stop sharing? Because I don't know if there's people in the public that want to be heard.
Yeah, let's see.
The question, Clary, I think my suggestion would be to go with what Mark's saying, is to do a resolution to disapprove this.
Disapprove the rear.
The rear.
Yeah.
Approve the rooftop.
A and B, the resolution to
Ms.
approve.
Pudeval,
but C,
I'm going to butcher your name. Can you take down the share screen, please?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And just call me Jackie.
Okay.
Okay. How do I pause share? I hit pause share. Is that all I do?
There should be a red button. There you go.
Okay.
Hey, we did it.
Okay, so now I'm looking at attendees. If anybody on the attendees wants to be heard on this, I don't see anything in Q&A. If you want to, please raise your hand.
Virtual hand.
You're right. There should be a raise hand button next to your. I'm not seeing anybody, so the chairs can do what they want to do next.
and there's no,
I think we can move ahead on our resolution to recommend disapproval.
yeah, but we really have 3 parts here, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So do we want to recommend to approve A and B? Restoration of the front facade by eliminating the through-the-wall air conditioner grills?
Yes.
No, that's, I'm sorry, that's staff level
That's
work.
staff.
Landmarks is not going to be looking for that to be included in your resolution.
But again, Mark, we should put down that we were told this is staff level. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay, then B, addition of rooftop stair bulkhead and elevator overruns. That's for us. We,
Yes.
motion to approve that. Is that the general consensus? We'll take a
Yes.
vote on that. But to disapprove the replace, well, we don't, do we have, seems we can divide C into two, replacement of a curved, well, we can say eliminate or no, maybe we should just keep it.
I think, Michelle, we're just approving the totality. We can say that while on the one hand, we are not troubled by the
Removal of the bay window.
whatever the things we've talked about, that, I mean, at first I was appalled by the idea of removing a bay window until we learned more about what a piece of crap it is. But that we find the following things wrong with the windows, and therefore we disapprove.
Okay, does that work for everybody?
I think that's what we're saying, yeah.
Okay, do we want to take three separate votes, or you can just tell me what your vote is on B and C? Susan?
So let's see if I
So
can.
this is a motion to approve B for lack of a better word or description, and C to disapprove. We don't disapprove the removal of the curved bay window, but we disapprove the United Fenestration System as presented.
Right. The ununified fenestration system.
Mark, well, you'll.
Michelle, excuse me, there's a question from the an attendee.
Oh, I didn't see that. Let's see.
Karen Kelly, so how much excavation is planned?
I think
The
I
answer
should
to
have
that
the,
is, is 2 feet.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Michelle.
Thanks, Susan. So
Yeah.
what is, how do you vote on our resolutions?
I'm fine with the rooftop and I disapprove the back.
Okay.
Says yes on the rooftop and no on the back.
No.
That's a yes on the
Well,
resolution.
no, it's a yes and a yes,
Yes.
because one's a yes.
We'll get through this.
I mean, I don't want to
You're doing
impose
fine.
any
Keep
of
going.
my
You're
values
doing
on
well.
your
Keep
vote.
going.
Okay, Peter?
Yes on the top and no on the back, but that means yes, right?
Right,
No
no,
means yes.
yes, correct.
Yes means no.
Now we have Clary?
Yeah, I'm in favor of both parts of the resolution. And if I may just take a half a second to have an entirely gratuitous comment about something that's not before us for the architect and Jackie. I couldn't figure out how your people are going to get food from the basement kitchen to that dining room that is so far away, but that's their problem, not ours.
that's why they're putting in an elevator. That's what the elevator's
Right,
for.
a dumb waiter or an elevator.
Not a dumb
Elevator.
waiter, it's an elevator.
It's an
still very
elevator.
far away.
Even better.
There is a stairway in there.
There is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes and yes.
Okay. Paige? She's still here? Paige, you're
She's
yes and yes?
Muted.
Yes and yes, that means yes for the rooftop and yes for not supporting the rear.
Right. Josh?
you.
Thank you.
Yes and yes.
I'm a yes and a yes. And Kay?
Yes and yes.
All right, so I'm going to
So-
write this as one resolution since we all voted the same way.
Right.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was a unanimous resolution to yes and yes. All right. All right, thank
I
you.
just want to say thank you all for your comments, and we will take everything into consideration and come back to you with any updates.
Okay,
Great.
are you going to be in front of LPC soon?
I think April 12th. I have to get confirmation. But yeah, we're shooting for next month.
Okay. All right, see you there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now we have 323 West 87th Street, application to LPC for a certificate of appropriateness regarding A, stonework restoration and replacement of the existing transom and French doors within an arched window on the front facade at the top floor. B, a rooftop addition with a stair, bulkhead, and skylight. And C, replacement of fenestration on the rear facade and existing L extension at the ground and parlor floors. All right, who is here for this application?
I am here for that. Carl Pucci is in attendance, but he will be sharing his screen if someone could make him a panelist, if that's possible.
Okay.
Hello.
There he is. You're muted.
I'm on video, I'm muted. Looking at my nose. Sorry. Can I share the screen?
Yes, right? Okay.
Okay. If I can remove this and that, so you can see. Good evening, committee members. Thank you for staying up late and hearing this presentation. My name is Carl Pucci. I'm the architect for the owners of 323 West 87th Street. It's an 1897 Romanesque revival building. There are three issues before us with landmarks, and as previously stated, one is the window on the third floor, a rooftop addition, and a change to the fenestration in the rear L. Some of this will touch exactly on what the last two presentations went through, because I have a slightly different report from landmarks of what of what is meant to be at staff level and what is for your hearing. So I'll be curious to see how this goes. This is the block building showing the relative heights of all the neighbors. That the building is immediately adjacent to a 9-story apartment building, 4, 5 floors. Most of the remaining buildings are 4, 5 floors. Outlined in blue are additions on the roofs of the neighbors, both on the north side at 88th Street and 87th Street. And you can see the typical extensions in place there. This is the aerial view. Our building is this one here. I assume you can see my cursor tucked in next to the apartment building. You can see the various additions and added on to the buildings as well. This is the 39 tax photo showing the building pretty much currently as it is. The window in question is this top window, which no longer has this, what we can kind of see as a floral pattern. But if we zoom in a little bit, on the left, you can see that was replaced at some time with this grid of the transom window above. And then you can see that it's up against the apartment building next door, and the building to our left has been sadly raped and has no more redeeming character. And another shot of the front facade, and it's this window in question. Here it is from a little bit better angle. So these are the existing condition photos. Rooftop on the left, panning to the west, showing some of the neighbors, the higher additions on roofs, and then the opposite, the other side of the donut, looking at the back of the buildings with their additions, both on top and extensions as well.
Those things that look like railway cars or railroad cars on the roof?
What are those?
Where are you? See railroad cars?
It's
All those
ductwork.
The vents?
Yeah, they're
Rectangular
ductwork.
solids, are they all
It's
vents?
ductwork.
Oh,
ductwork?
that's all. The current air conditioning system is all on the roof and ducted across and down. So that would all be removed. The existing and proposed elevations, on the left is the existing front facade. The window in question is the third floor window. And what we are proposing to do is to add a guardrail so that for safety, this will be a child's bedroom. The existing decorative facade, which follows the outline of the bay, is entirely too low to be code compliant. So we're essentially adding window guards, and we're doing that at the face of the window, which is set back 5 feet or so from the existing balustrade, which would help conceal it as well. The other thing we're doing is we are changing the swing of the transom window. The transom window is a fixed window, and we would like to make it into a transom window, again, for ventilation without opening the doors. And to do that, we would be making an exact replica of the same window, but that would pivot in. None of the exterior stonework or wood painted brick mold would be disturbed. We would be going back to the original window stubs.
How would that window pivot open?
It would
On the
pivot
top?
like a
Maybe I
hopper,
misunderstood.
like a transom window, so from the bottom down.
Got it. Okay.
It's like you're adding a little rosette or something in the top. There's that little detail in the center top. Yeah, right there. What's that?
That's the number of the window, 31.
Number.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Hard to see.
No, we won't put that in the windows. Sorry about that. You can see in this as well that the roof of the addition, which also has a sloped roof like the mansard roof now, but that is sloped so that it's beyond your line of sight. So you do not actually see any of this from the facade. In the rear, the existing facade is the third drawing rather, and there we are replacing the current double doors with a larger, like everyone else who wants more glass, more light in their backyard, with a fold-away door system. We are making the existing double door at the parlor level about 11 inches wider, just again to make that door a little bit bigger. We're making no changes to the upper floors. They would stay. The cornice line would stay intact. The roof would slope back to our new addition, which is set 15 feet back, or 15 feet back from the rear facade, creating a terrace. And then we'll come back to that in more detail.
How big is the skylight?
That's a skylight on top.
Just that area.
That's
And
above
behind that is-
the addition, yes, in the addition.
And behind that is a fence? I can't.
Right, that's the
Okay.
fencing for that, for the front. So that, and then all of that, including the chimneys, are not visible from below. Now, we were told that this work at the bottom 2 floors of the building were to be approved at staff level by the LPC, and that we're showing you to show you what is to be done. But they say that that is a staff level decision. The roof work is also invisible from the street and technically would be approvable at staff level. The introduction of a window guard in the front is also technically a staff level, but they say that the changing of the window sash from fixed to movable was not approvable at staff level. And then finally, we were hit with the cumulative impact rule, 215G, which I think goes back to what we were all discussing, or you were all discussing earlier, that if you have both a roof addition and an existing extension, even if all of those pieces can be approved at staff level, it becomes something that needs to be approved at community board and at commission level. So I'm a little, I mean, the previous two ones, for what it's worth, seem to have slightly different readings of that, but that's my understanding of what the requirements are. This is a section through the building. The view plane is shown from standing eye height of 6 feet backed up against the wall of the neighbors across the street. The existing roof is this dotted line sloping down here to the existing cornice. We are leveling the floor level and sloping the roof of our addition so that it hides behind the existing mansard roof. The current roof, as you saw, went up and comes back down, and all that ductwork is at this level now. We are then stepping down the addition one step to bring the roof line back to the existing cornice line in the rear. And then this is just a section in the other direction showing the same thing, that we are back from the facade. There's a new elevator, but it does not go through the roof. And it does not, in fact, go to the cellar, so there's no excavation. We would be raising the parapet walls. These are party walls on both sides to get to required height, and raising a chimney so that it remains 3 feet above the neighbor, or our own parapet. These are the details on the window. So the new, very simple 1x3 steel, wrought iron rather, window guards that would be hinged so that they could be swung out of the way for access to the terrace for cleaning and maintenance, that kind of thing. They would sit in section immediately in front of the window and attached to the existing flat areas, which are in the, you can see in the photos. None of the window or door will be disturbed in any way, but we'll make our attachments along this outside inch edge here.
I have a question with respect to the window guards. How are they window guards if you can open and close them? I mean, if, with all due respect, kids today are much smarter than we are.
Well, they would have a pintle hinge, you know, a pin and a whole simple gate hinge. And on one side would be the hinge, and on the other side are 2 holes where we put the lock through. So you would have to have a key and basically a padlock. They're kept locked. They'd only be opened, you know, hopefully by the parents if they needed to get out onto the balcony.
So that's not fire egress then?
Yes, it can't be.
No.
That wouldn't be anyway.
So the doors swing in, and so this is to protect the family.
I'm sorry, can I pause on that for a second while we're on that subject and that screen? Because I've seen child guards and those look like, they look appropriate for for front facade grills, which means I question whether they can be appropriate, whether they function as child guards.
Right.
Because a kid could get through there, it looks like, unless, or is that, or is there
No,
more
they're
detail
the
to come?
standard, child 4-inch spacing. So, a sphere can't, 4-inch sphere can't move between
Because looking at the window live, it looked like it was bigger than this, so.
Can you
Okay.
confirm the height? Because typically guards for children are 42 inches. Can you confirm the height of these? Because these seem low. You're not supposed to be able to pass a 4-inch ball through any aspect of this where a child
Correct.
could get their head caught, I think is
And
the other requirement.
that's how it's designed, and that's to scale these drawings. Those bars are on 4-inch spacing. So,
Is it
the-
42
for-
inches high?
Hmm?
Yes, it is. I'm
There's
sorry,
the-
I'm trying to read your notes.
Yeah, so
Okay,
it's 36 inches high above the floor, which is guardrail height for single family code. I'm happy to check that in, and if we need to make that 6 inches higher, we
well,
can.
you have your note to it says 42 inches, if I can read it right. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. 3 foot, I can't read the.
My
screen.
notes say 30, yeah.
Okay, I think it's higher. If you could just verify that.
We'll verify that in code.
Thank
yeah.
you. Oh, I see, there it is. Thank you for making it bigger.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about that per se?
I have a question about the transom window.
Right.
I think you said briefly, I think at the beginning of your presentation, you alluded to the original transom window having had some kind of decorative elements that were lost long ago. Is that,
Yeah.
is that right? And if so, with all the other lovely work you're doing, well, I guess I shouldn't prejudge that, but in any event, have you looked into restoring the original, whatever it was in that transom?
Well, I think the only hint we have of it, I looked in the basement, hoping that maybe it had gone down there. But the only documentation we have of it is that 1939 tax photo in black and white, which is a little bit fuzzy. And I think it would be a little presumptuous to try to do something explicitly replicative from that little go ahead.
There aren't others in the row that have that were similar?
No, this is this one. This was originally 5 buildings in a row. 3 were taken down for the apartment building, and the one to the left has been quite damaged, as you've seen. What's going on? So this is the window that I guess was there at designation, and so we're replicating that.
Okay.
All right.
Other.
Could you show, do you have, could we see the rooftop again, the Rooftop Edition?
And the materials?
Yeah, and the materials for that.
Yeah, so this is the, well, this sheet is all rooftop related. So this is a picture of the staging we put up, the orange mesh, to verify that it could not be seen from the street. Where that worker is standing, you can see the existing ductwork.
That's
That
all
would
going to be removed? Okay.
The side elevations of the building would be brick extensions of the party wall on either side, and part of it is up against the neighboring apartment building. The facade diagrammatically on the roof, on the garden side, is would be in standing seam metal siding, fairly simple, and that would be the same roof siding that goes on the front elevation of this, where it steps back.
What type of metal, zinc or aluminum or copper or what?
It's to be determined, but we were talking about just a Kynar painted metal standing seam, which can be almost any color, but we're assuming a light gray, more in a sort of stucco color for anonymity more than anything else.
And that it only contains a stair bulkhead?
No.
No, that contains a full little room.
Studio, I think.
There's no front facade to the rooftop addition because it's hard against the cornice and the mansard.
Yes, go back to that. Front elevation for a second. Get there.
Yeah.
So this little part of the addition roof, which is sloped back, would have that same standing seam metal roofing. So that's the part. But primarily, the existing roof goes up on that mansard and then comes all the way back down to the roof level. So we've tucked our entire addition behind the existing raised mansard on the roof. And then this is showing the 15 feet setback from the rear yard here.
So that sloping roof, excuse me for interrupting, that sloping roof is again the same standing seam metal cladding that you had as the rear facade of the rooftop?
Yes.
Edition, is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Can you stop just for a second on that? You just went by it. This is that your elevator shaft in the middle?
Yes.
So, I mean, this is really not a problem for you, but what I can't figure out is you've got an elevator that doesn't pierce the roof. And with the last guys, we somehow got convinced to approve a bulkhead for an elevator that went something like a 13 or 15 feet above the roof.
He was taking his elevator to the roof. He was getting out of the elevator at the roof.
Right, that's right. That's right.
You're
So
not doing that.
We're not doing that, no.
Okay.
And by not taking the elevator to the cellar, we can avoid
Any excavation.
very costly excavation and underpinning and that kind of thing.
Is this a Lula elevator?
A Luma?
Lula, low rise, whatever it is, elevators. So you can don't have to have the machine room, etc.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Corals.
Lula is low use, low rise or something like that.
Okay.
Low action or something. Okay, that's nice. Thank you.
Roof. Well, and that, so this is the plan of the third floor, just showing the child's bedroom and where those windows and doors are located, and a little bit of balcony. And this is the expansion onto the roof, which is being used as a studio, playroom, guest area. Includes an opening to the floor below, has a bathroom and the elevator, the roof terrace at the rear. And then this is the high part of the existing mansard that it's tucked behind. And this is the roof itself with a skylight, mechanical equipment, fire landing area, And, that's up there. So that's essentially what we have. Go back to the elevations.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there anybody? Mark, is there anybody from the public left who is still standing?
There are several folks from the public, but I don't see any hands raised.
No Q&A.
Give them a chance. Perhaps you could take down the share screen for a moment. Is there anybody that wants to be heard on this? If so, please raise your hand, your digital hand.
While we're just double checking on that, I wanted to just see if I could ask a version of the same question that I raised and then we discussed with, was it the last one or the one before, about the rear yard, the surface of the non-built part of the rear yard. What's there now? What changes you're proposing? It's back to that permeability question.
What's back there now is, well, first of all, there is yard drainage. It's primarily loose brick pavers, so that's inherently permeable. And there's a perimeter planting area around the few feet along the fence and to the back. And that would not be, we're not actually changing anything.
Better than the last guys, for sure.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
All right. Who's got a thought or a suggestion or a comment or a direction to go?
With respect to A, stonework restoration, it's not really stonework restoration that you're doing. You're replacing the transom.
Right.
Okay, so we can eliminate it. Am I right, Mark? There's no stonework.
The drawings do show that there's repair being proposed for the archway and where the doors meet, unless that's not a part of the plan anymore. But the plans that we were shown in advance showed repair work of that archway at the top floor of the front facade.
No, we in discussions with landmarks, we in fact said that was not required and better not to touch it than to play with it.
Okay.
I just have
yeah, go ahead.
a quick question on the rear. I meant to ask you when you had it up, but the double doors, pair of double doors that you have at the back on the garden side, ground floor, how come the left side doesn't align with the windows? It's petty, but you're filling in with brick on either side. And I was just curious as to the logic of why that side of the window doors don't align with the windows up above as it
They've
does
added a
on the-
staircase from the parlor floor to the garden, I think. It's not.
Yes,
No,
but
but that we've widened it to make it better align with the window above it. If that makes sense.
well, the right side aligns, but the left side doesn't. And it looks like it's just a few inches out. It wouldn't impact the staircase. It would drive me crazy.
Can I show that again?
Yeah, please do.
Please,
Thank you.
please.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
So this is the existing window, which does not align with any of the
Correct.
windows. It's tight to the extension, so we're keeping that side, but we're widening it so that it more closely aligns with the window above.
Well, then look at the window below, the sliding doors. They don't.
Oh, this
sorry.
window down here,
Yes,
the big
that
window?
one doesn't align. I'm just curious as to why not, because you are filling in brick on the other side. Sorry, I have a very attentive Airedale here is very jealous.
No,
of all
I mean, those two are, you know, separated in plane by quite a bit. One is set back almost, I think, whatever the extension is, 12 feet or something like that. So they're not really
They're not in
something
the
you
same
would see
plane.
as aligning. You can't see that from
Yeah,
the
no.
ground.
I thought they were aligned because the upper part of the window is, I know those windows, those doors are set back, but it's just a question. Those kind of things sort of bother me. Just a moment, I need to deal with dog.
Okay. But if we're talking about aligning with the edge of this window, we could certainly do that. Yeah.
Anything else?
The windows on the or the doors on the garden level, the ground level, they're opening to one room as opposed to the former, well, the present condition. Are those doors open to two separate rooms?
The current condition is that they open to a single room, and they will, in fact, the new windows will open into a single room as well.
Right.
All right. Are we ready to?
Yeah, if I could just jump in for two thoughts that I'll share. One is that I think the standing seam metal for the rear facade of the Rooftop Edition is more appropriate than a lot of other options, including stucco, which I think we see too much of. So I think that's a good thing, and I appreciate that. I'm actually a little bit sorry to see the divided light go on the bottom two floors, but not sorry enough to say that it's inappropriate. So I think I can support that. I join Clary. Perhaps I'm putting words in Clary's mouth, but I join Clary in wishing that there were a better solution for that transom than just replacing it in kind, but accept the explanation as given.
I'm sorry, for those windows on the ground, the doors on the ground floor, what's the material being used?
Those are metal, those are aluminum windows. It's a nano wall system that the door folds, the four panels fold to one side to completely open.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's why the swing is kind of funny.
Right.
I'm now confused about the plane on what Kate started out asking about. On the garden floor, the extension is full width? Current extension is full width?
The extension on the garden floor is coplanar with the extension on the garden floor. So the garden and the parlor extension are in a single plane, but the parlor floor doors onto that little terrace are set back at the original building facade.
Right. Okay. What do we think? Are we?
I think we
ready
can
to
call a
vote
vote
on this.
Yeah.
Well, I would, if we approve, and I'm inclined to do so, I would again use the word reasonably. I don't think it's horrible, but I don't think it's great. And I think our indicating that we're sort of okay-ish with it is better than not qualifying.
I agree with you on that definition. Reasonably
good.
appropriate to the historical character of the district.
And is that primarily because of the lack of panes in the new windows, or is there something, or the character of the addition on the roof? Just curious.
You know, for me at least, if I'm not sure you're asking me as opposed to others, but I don't know that we need to comment on this in the resolution. I think you've explained why you're not restoring the original detailing on the transom window. If you were doing that, I would have a more enthusiastic yes. In the back, yeah, I mean, it's, I guess going from the multi-pane to that Nana, Nana, is that what it's called? System is, makes me less than fully enthusiastic. That's my reason anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I stand guilty as charged. I mean, I think that you've seen it time and time again where owners want to make as much window and as much air, and much openness as they can in what is the dark, low floor
Right.
of a townhouse, going out to the garden. So,
You know, I've seen ads for that Nana system in very high-end magazines.
is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Because of this being onto a garden, are there going to be insect screens in front of these doors? Because on a Nana wall, that adds quite a lot of thickness and depth to the width of the threshold.
No, this door system, they're not sliding, so they're folding, so they're only maintaining the same threshold width as a single door.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And screening we have not discussed, but it is possible to add a screen to this system. Not very well for when you have it open the entire way, but for the one door that you usually is the operable door.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're only going to open them up in the winter time, so it shouldn't be a problem.
We get more light reflecting off the snow that way.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you tell us what that staircase is going to be made out of?
It's just an open steel railing and stairs,
Painted black steel?
painted black. And it's I guess it doesn't really show here, but it's actually up against the apartment building. It's not as free floating as it looks, but the neighboring apartment building comes back the full 95 feet or something. So we're that stair would actually be going up along a wall, not standing in space.
Oh. Okay, that's a little better, but yeah. All right, so are we ready to approve this application as presented with a one small change to section A, that is, there's no stonework restoration?
Yep.
All right, I will take the vote. Susan? Do you want to separate A, B, and C? Should we do A, B? Yeah. No? Okay. No. Susan, I didn't hear you.
Go somebody else first. Not like
okay. Peter? Is he? I can't hear you, hon.
Is Peter still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's here.
I'm muted. I approve.
Okay. Clary?
Yes, I'm okay on all of it.
Mark?
Same.
Paige?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Kay?
Yep.
And Susan?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a unanimous vote to approve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 0, 0, 0. Again, are there any non-committee board members here? None?
Don't see any.
Just us
All right.
chickens.
So as you know, Mr. Pucci, we have a full board meeting where our resolution will be presented to the full community board on April 5th, 2022, and at 6:30. I suggest you look at the website. You're welcome to join us. I suggest you look at the website to see approximately what time your application will come in front of the full board with and add a few minutes to that. Maybe half an hour. And we thank you.
Excuse me, Michelle, are you guys calendared yet?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
I think we have the same response as previous ones. We were told that it would be mid-April, but they wanted to see, they weren't sure, when I last talked to them, they weren't sure when your full board met and if they would have that hearing, they would have that response back in time for the, I think it was the 9th. So I think we're tentatively for the April, no, 12th and 19th, I think it's.
April 19th, because we'll meet on the 5th as a full board. And they will have our LPC will have our resolution in a couple of days anyway, because Jesse from our office gets on that right away, and we have the master resolution writer here. And
Jesse is very good. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
And Paige has a question, I think.
Yes, are we back in no longer Zoom mode, but on the next full board meeting, as I understand it, will be our first in person again?
Unless something changes between now and next Wednesday, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Will it still be able to zoom in or not? No. Okay.
There'll be a live stream.
We don't know.
There'll be, yeah. So just to expound on that, there'll be a live stream, but it won't be interactive like Zoom. You can listen and hear, but I don't think you can comment unless you're in person.
Okay.
Unless
that would serve my purposes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be fine.
All right, and thank you for that clarification of rule 215B.
Cumulative impact. It's the only rule that says, every rule says that staff may do this, staff may do this. That one says staff may not do this. But then it doesn't tell you what we're supposed to be following, how we're supposed to mitigate cumulative impact. So,
well, this committee had a big hand in helping draft that particular rule. So
is that right?
So don't say anything too bad about it.
Yeah.
No, but that's, anyway, I was interested in the other interpretations from earlier.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Does anybody have any new business?
No.
Just have a question for the committee. Did you guys get the whole set of materials for today before this afternoon? Maybe I just missed an email because I got them this afternoon and I thought that was a lot of work this afternoon that I would have done sooner, but maybe I missed an email.
there was a message from Jesse maybe 10 days ago, but the materials were a link. They weren't attachments like PDFs.
Oh.
Right. I wanted to update everybody on the application for 315 Central Park West. That was that private school that wanted to put up a couple of banners.
Yeah.
As you recall, and I think the full board,
Montessori.
The resolution that went to LPC was that full board approved a couple of banners, but what it came down, what happened at LPC is that they looked at first LPC didn't want to, like, we referred the resolution to LPC to decide. I'm not sure we made a definite decision. And at first it seemed like LPC was going to bounce it back. But the applicant went in front of LPC the second time, and so LPC approved one flagpole in the middle of the entrance door in part of the facade that had no decorative features. So it was the applicant came back with a revised plan, and that was approved by LPC. One flagpole.
So one instead of two, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the entrance door and attached in a part of the building that had no decorative features.
Okay.
It was much more subtle, I think.
So what seemed to me to be like a rather excessive amount of time that we collectively spent on that here and at full board. There was some validity to all of that discussion anyway.
Yeah. So that's what I learned, and I'm passing on to you in person. And I think we should look at this cumulative impact of additions, this section. So I'll look at it. I'll write to LPC and ask them why the staff level is involved in in one of these
Okay.
applications, 2 of them. So to make sure that we get the concise information to the board. And I guess that's about it, unless anybody else has something they
No.
want to say.
Okay.
Paige or
Just something very interesting. I
Oh, yeah.
complained
Yeah.
about 6-16 West 77th Street. Landmark West had taken the lead in doing that. Our fearless leader, Sean Corsandi, had been talking to other preservation groups because everybody's very worried about what's happening to the tops of buildings. Everything seems to be up
That's
for
the
grabs.
rooftop, yeah.
And here's the, I haven't seen the final, but thank heaven, Gail is back. And she and Sean and I think many other preservationists, because I wasn't available to participate, so I have no hand in this except a big bravo, because it is one of the best statements that I think Gail has ever written to shoot down rooftop additions on our beautiful historic skyline. So
where does that leave that particular application? I thought LPC had already lowered the height of it, but approved otherwise. Is
I
that
think what Gail's point here is that they're messing with the quality of architecture. It's not about the individual anymore, or the setback, because the thing is, it doesn't even follow the landmarks rules, which say that it shouldn't be visible from the street and it can only be 10 feet from the baseline of that floor. And it still bucks at trying to be special. And the problem is, when you have one special one, everyone's special. So I will try to ask, I think it's Jack Wild, who is Gail's new person that works in her office as a scheduler, and make sure that you guys all get a copy of this. I found out about it last night at about 10 o'clock, and it's one of the best. I'm so glad we have Gail. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that'd be great if that could get forwarded to
Very
everyone.
good.
Yeah. All right. So I feel that we're winning one house at a time, one penthouse at a time.
I'm sorry, Paige, but I'm still confused. Does that have any impact? Is there still anything live under consideration on this application?
Oh, yeah, because
that was
even the building now is now up in arms. And one of our board members owns the other penthouse at the back. He has the blue one. This is the pink one. And he's very, very upset because who wants to have a glinting glass box shining in your, when you're at your breakfast table. So it's interesting. It took a long time. I think everybody was away. Maybe the pandemic is over and we're all starting to take an interest in our environment and our architecture again. But as I said, thank God we have Gail. This was, and I'll make sure that Jack Wild, I'll call him in the morning and make sure that you guys all get it. I think he'll be very impressed.
Okay, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, the only other thing I'll add to that, I'm not going to opine on the architecture, but the application was reheard at LPC with a lowered roof. Remember, it was a 2-story box, and they lowered the roof of the top box, and they lowered remember they had the whole thing was set up on a so they lowered the platform on which it was proposed, so the height of it came down a bit. Personally, I think that lowering the roof of the top box, they should have just eliminated the top box, because now it looks out of whack with its own proportions, regardless of what you think of the architecture in contrast to the building on which it sits. Anyway, so they got sent back to the drawing board a second time is the answer to your question. So Gail's letter will be read before there is a decision.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I hadn't known. Thank you, Mark.
Great, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
All right, I guess meeting adjourned. It's been a pleasure again. even though I didn't think so originally, but it turned out to be quite exciting.
Hey, Michelle, and Kay, I think we could say, see you in April, right?
See you in reality, in real
you.
life.
Right, when we're all different heights.
Okay.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you. and good
Guys.
night.